Hi everyone, I'm Linda Fabry and this is the Intuitive Painting of the Week for August 27th through the, I think September 3rd. It's the last week of August, and sorry, I'm a little bit starstruck, so it's really hard for me to talk about this. This is our intuitive painting for the week. We've got the incredible Aretha Franklin for our Oracle card deck, and I'll just read to you what the words that came to me. The Oracle card will read, "Praise the day. Express yourself in all your grace and glory. Allow your heart to open and your voice to rise up. Let your soul shine brightly like the morning sun as you declare to the day, I am here." Very powerful, very, very powerful. It was a surprise to me. I didn't set out, I love Aretha Franklin, but I did not set out to paint a tribute. It's just not something I normally do. I actually created the background a few days before she made her transition into non-physical, and yeah, I mean, I knew it was going to be I knew right away it was going to be a singer, and that she'd have her arms open wide, but I had no idea that it was going to be this moving for me personally too. So I hope it moves you too. So I'm going to show you the time lapse in a second here, and then I'll kind of give a brief overview. So forgive me if I'm a little starstruck. I'm kind of like still in awe that this is that she came through like this. So yeah. So here's our painting of the week. Have a great week. Okay, let's take a look. I just want to say first thing, I'm gonna try to just treat it like every week. But it really, so I want to get this out of the way and just say, like, it profoundly affected me personally to do this painting. I feel like I was painting it like under the full moon, like it just feels like things just opened up, and so I'd love to hear from you and let me know if that also, if it affects you that way too. I just feel like my heart and soul just expanded, like these open arms, and her power just kind of like moved through me. It's really wonderful. So to start with, I'll talk about the colors that I chose. So like I think I mentioned in the introduction, is that I created this background like 2 weeks ago. I was trying to get ahead a little bit so that I wasn't so overwhelmed. It's funny because the message of this week's card is kind of like about showing up, like I am here, right? And I created the background kind of in an attempt to kind of get ahead of things because I was feeling very overwhelmed. I really wasn't, and it caused me to kind of hide in. And so here's this image that's like, no, woo, like show up. But so I created it about 3 days before Aretha made her transition, And when I saw the background, and those of you maybe have seen the background, or if you could see the still in the video, there was a very clear figure to me with arms outstretched. And I had mentioned to a friend, I said, I think it might be like a gospel singer. And I kept hearing the phrase, praise the day. Like, it just felt like this joyful exuberance and just this, this expanding heart energy. And the colors that came up reminded me of like a sunset or a sunrise or something very earthy. You've got these beautiful browns mixed with these vibrant corals and oranges, and I just loved the background. And they're not colors that I typically choose when I paint. I tend toward like the blues and things like that, and I just love the colors of this, and the surprise of it. But anyway, so yeah, the first thing I saw when I got to the background was this. I was like, oh, maybe it's an angel. It was a light. It reminded me very much of early on, one of our first monthly cards was called Embody Your Awakening, and it was this energy rising up within the person as she was dancing, and it kind of felt like that one a little bit. And it definitely had the sunrise quality. But I want to take a closer look at some of the... So I worked with this figure, and let me just tell you really quick, and then I'll go through some of the other elements. I didn't set out to create a tribute, although I love Aretha Franklin. It's just not something I do. I think about it a lot, like if someone passes or whatever, I'm like, oh, I should do a painting of them. But I didn't set out and say, oh, this week I'm going to dedicate to Aretha Franklin. What happened was I saw this figure there, and I felt like it would be a gospel singer. Like, that's what I envisioned. And it didn't have, and that figure didn't have a name or a gender or anything attached to it. Maybe female, but it was just, what I felt was this joyful expression of self, this joyful song, this joyful expansion like the sunrise. And then, so I knew that starting out. And then what ended up happening was I was looking for images, because what I'll do is I'll say, okay, I see a figure that's standing with their arms outstretched, and so I'll do an image search and try to find something to use as kind of a model to begin my sketching. And I kept coming up with, because clearly, like, she's all over the news, I kept coming up with images of Aretha, and I was like, oh, it's her. And then I found this image of her in this radiant white dress with the pearls and she just looked so beautiful, and I just had to paint it. So that's how that happened. And then, so as I was working with it, and I'll show you, so I work with a sketch, and then I put, so what I do is I see this image, and then I work with tracing paper, and I begin sketching, and I do more layers and layers of the tracing paper around it to kind of get ideas. So here's kind of like this sketch here, and reworking like her face and different elements, and I'll rework it and then trace it and then put it back on, so that I don't have lots of pencil lines on the actual painting. And that's how this evolves. So you can see just kind of outlines of pencil lines, but so I don't like go, I just wanted to make it clear that I don't just like, it just doesn't come out of nowhere. I don't just go, oh, okay, I'm going to paint Aretha Franklin, and it like moves from my brain out my hand onto this thing. No, there's a process of creating sketches. So anyway, so that's how she kind of came about. And I just, while I was painting her, some of the things that really, I kept checking in, like, it feels funny to me to say, like, oh, I kept checking in with Aretha, like we had a chat, but really I feel like I wanted to honor or respect her, and really I kept checking with her, like, is this how, and just the feeling, I don't even know, it's really hard for me to put it into words, but I really enjoyed kind of emphasizing like her jewelry, and just, God, she's just gorgeous. And in honoring her and appreciating her beauty, I started to feel that in myself, and just that there's something about how she's holding her arms open, and her song, you can almost feel it. I started to feel it within myself too. And when the words came up and I said them out loud the first time, I am here, it got me like choked up. And I feel like that, I think that's the message that almost she's coming through for a message for us, that just show up and let your divine light shine and sing your song and be full of your grace and your glory, and just like, yeah. So it feels like that's such a powerful message that I can't even do it justice with words. So that's why I paint. So she came about, and then I just worked with that, the light, where the light hit fabric, where the light hit the pearls, this flower, they were all very important. Where the light touched on her cheeks and her pupils, like where the light touched was very important. So I felt that light is such an important message here. The sunlight, like our souls are like light. We are light. And so letting our soul rise like the morning sun, you know. I love that. That did not come from me. I believe that the words that on the card, my perspective of it, and, you know, I don't want to challenge anybody else's belief, but it feels to me like all of the words, because I also was looking at the potential of looking at some of her song lyrics and using that as inspiration. And when I checked in with her, and I asked, well, Aretha, what song can you direct me to? A song that would be a good message? And it was, those are songs already written. Those words are already spoken. Let's create new words is really what it was. So those words came out, and it's, yeah. So, yeah, so then I painted her, and then the light around, and I was kind of asking about what do I do with some of these images, because I see a lot in here. And I'll show you a couple. So we'll start, like I do with most weeks, let's look at the quadrants real quick. So right at the center would be like her throat. Right at this edge of awareness is like her throat and shoulder. So throat chakra, that voice, it's about voice right there coming into awareness, and the head and shoulders. So for many of us, we're probably very much centered in these top energy centers. We're very much in our intuition, we're very much in our minds, in our throats, and then the body, the root and the heart and all that stuff is kind of coming up into the awareness. But this is all about expressing the voice and opening up that throat, ears, throat and shoulders, like all that energy. It feels like, as I'm talking about it, I can feel it in my throat and shoulders. So I would invite you all to kind of maybe do some toning or something like that this week, and just let your voice rise up is really what, let it come up from the depth and coming up from your heart, coming up from your solar plexus. That's where it's like rising up from your solar plexus and out. So that's right here. Her hands are right at that level of awareness. So so if you haven't seen the other weeks, whatever's below this line is kind of like, I would call it subconscious, sort of. And then this is our awareness. So all of this rising up into our awareness here, the spirit, it feels like the dove represents spirit. But let's kind of take a look at some of this down here, where there's like this, I see a bluebird, like two eyes and a beak. Makes me think of like the bluebird of happiness kind of thing. This is all over on the practical linear side. I see an owl right there, almost like a, let me see if it'll focus in on there. It's kind of funny to me. Kind of like a sleepy or stoned owl down here. It's like, that would be the belly, maybe a couple little feet, and then that's like his cheeks, that's an eye. Here's the owl's beak, top of the head, right? And then his eye is like half shut, like kind of an indifference, like that, because wisdom with indifference, so happiness, wisdom with indifference. And swirl. I see a little snail right here, like take your time. I see over on this side like 2 eyes and the face of like a lioness. So there's that power. And then so over on this side is the more linear, creative, intuitive side. So there's just a few things that are shown down in here that are kind of coming up. And then up above where I put the dove, there was like it was clear to me that that was going to be a bird. I knew it was a bird. I could see it. And just now I'm seeing, do you see this book in the back here? So there's like an open book. So there's the 2 pages right here. Like it's opened up. And almost feels like that's coming out of maybe, I don't know, the Akashic Records. It could be sacred texts, something like that, kind of up in here. I see some animals in here. Yeah, I see like a little 2 eyes and like a little, maybe a cat or fox or something like that. So there's a lot going on in the background too. It's like they're all kind of coming in, moving into her solar plexus and coming out through her voice. So all of creation, all of the light is kind of moving in and coming out. Yeah. So it's powerful. It just feels like, so if we look at this as kind of a, just like all of them, like kind of a reading for the week ahead, what's happening for the week ahead. This reminds me of a seahorse too. So there's a couple of things about like kind of chilling, like chill, slow down, be happy, let your power in. But so there's some little smaller messages, you know, here and there, but it's really about like ownership, like I am here. So this week, use that power of the fullness of the moon, the fullness of your glory, the fullness of all the grace. To be full of grace is to be full of God, source, spirit, or whatever word you like, and just opening it up and letting your voice be heard, letting it rise like the morning sun. I keep doing this, I don't know, but I am like, I can feel this in my body, and there's a shift. And so I'm really hoping that in sharing it, like take a minute to kind of breathe it in and let that, now that Aretha is in non-physical, call her into you, ask to feel her essence within you. And that's what this is about. So this week ahead, like praise the day. And you praise the day by showing up fully in who you are and expressing who you are in your fullness and all that you have to offer. All right. Thank you for joining me this week, and many, many blessings to you all for this week ahead. Bye-bye.